Good Monday, everyone. Continuing on with our series on categories of verbal abuse. Category number 3, discounting. And I think I'm going to include in this one also number 4, which is verbal abuse disguised as jokes, because I found um, definitely in my experience with a verbal abuser that discounting and verbal abuse disguised as jokes were often used together. Um, Discounting, according to Patricia Evans, is denies the reality and experience of the partner and is extremely destructive. If the partner does not recognize it for what it is, she may spend years trying to figure out what is wrong with her or what is wrong with her ability to communicate. Discounting denies and distorts the partner's actual perception of the abuse and is therefore one of the most insidious forms of verbal abuse. One way to understand discounting is to imagine an item in a store that is worth $100 discounted to 1 cent. In this imaginary example, the item is discounted to the extent that it is deemed valueless, worth nearly nothing. In reality, the verbal abuser discounts his partner's experience and feelings as if they were worth nothing. If the partner says, for example, I felt hurt when I heard you say, or I don't think that's funny, it sounds like a put down, or I feel bad when you yell at me like that, the abuser may discount his partner's feelings, saying something that gives her the message, your feelings and experience are wrong. They are worth nothing. Following is a list of common discounting statements. You're too sensitive. You're jumping to conclusions. You can't take a joke. You blow everything out of proportion. You're making a big deal out of nothing. You don't have a sense of humor. You see everything in the worst possible light. You take things too seriously. You feel too much. Your imagination is working overtime. You don't know what you're talking about. You think you know it all. You always have something to complain about. You're trying to start something. You're not happy unless you're complaining. You take everything the wrong way. You read things into my words or you twist everything around. And last but not least, my personal favorite, you're looking for a fight. It's not unusual for the partner to trust the abuser. She may believe, for example, that something is intrinsically wrong with her, or her sense of humor, or her perceptions. These beliefs can lead to feelings of frustration and futility. She may spend hours, even days, trying to figure out how it is that she comes across the way he says she does, not realizing that his discounting statements are said to avoid having to take responsibility for his behavior, which is, as I've said in a previous video, usually the simplest explanation, the one that's right in front of your face, is the right one. Number 4, verbal abuse disguised as jokes. Abuse disguised as a joke is a category of verbal abuse which all of the women I interviewed experienced. It takes a quick mind to come up with ways of disparaging the partner, either crassly or with wit and style. This kind of abuse is not done in jest. It cuts to the quick, touches the most sensitive areas, and leaves the abuser with a look of triumph. This abuse never seems funny because it isn't funny. Disparaging comments disguised as jokes often refer to the feminine nature of the partner, to her intellectual abilities, or to her competency. If the partner says, "I didn't think that was funny," the abuser may, for example, discount her experience by angrily saying, "You just don't know how to take a joke. You just don't have a sense of humor." Or, again, my favorite, "You're just trying to start an argument." These statements themselves are abusive. Let's see. Following are disparaging comments which a verbal abuser will describe as a joke. "Boy, are you easily entertained. What else can you expect from a woman? You couldn't find your head if it wasn't attached." An abuser may also startle or frighten his partner, after which he will laugh as if it were a joke. So, like I said at the beginning of the video, these two categories are often used together. And I definitely got a lot of "you like to start an argument." He would basically pick at me about something that I was sensitive about, and then when I would defend myself, I would be accused of start trying to start an argument when in actuality it was he who wanted to start an argument. It was he who liked to argue because I was essentially his verbal punching bag, which he confirmed, literally, like admitted this to friends and family, said to them verbatim, "She's my punching bag. I don't know why she puts up with me." He actually said this to people. Um, and I know most of us have heard the line before about, when a narcissist shows you who they are, you believe them. And that's basically, that was one of the things that I supplied him with. I was his punching bag. Figuratively speaking, thank goodness, not a literal punching bag. Um, but was his verbal punching bag for him to vent frustrations on, because if something happened at work that was stressing him out, he couldn't yell at his boss or insult a coworker, in front of other coworkers. He couldn't make himself look bad at the office, or maybe in front of a friend that he didn't feel comfortable doing that with. Of course, there were certain friends of his who he would do the same thing to, and he used them as verbal punching bags as well. But if he happened to have some source of frustration with someone he wasn't comfortable um, venting with, he would come home after maybe an anxious interruption with that person, and he would unload on me. Like, just find something, anything possible to start an argument with me for. And then when I would try to defend myself, sometimes he would actually say, like, he would pick on me about something, and when I would get upset about it and call him out on it and say, "You're just kind of being a jerk right now. You're not being funny. I don't think it's funny. And you keep doing it, and I find it insulting." And he would say I was whining. I couldn't take a joke. I wouldn't know a good time if it bit me on the ass. He also used to use that excuse when I would complain about him, like, having a coke party at the house with some of his loser drug head friends. They would get some coke, and thank goodness that didn't happen often. But if they ever brought it here and I would say something about it, I would get accused of that I'm no fun. I would know a good time if it bit me in the ass. Um, so that pretty much covers discounting and verbal abuse disguised as jokes. When you call them out on something, when you point out the truth, and pretty much throw evidence in their face of how fucked up their behavior is, you get discounted and accused of not being able to take a joke. Very childish tactics indeed. If you have any comments, I'd appreciate you leaving them down below. And thank you very much for listening.